Hi friends, and welcome back into my studio. If you are new here, my name is Tammy Ernest and I am a long arm quilter, and here on my channel I like to share customer finishes as well as my own personal projects. So today, before we get started into customer quilts, I just wanted to answer some questions. So I am finally going back through some comments on YouTube. I apologize. I try to get to comments each week and sometimes it just doesn't happen. So I did take some time this week and go back through some old ones. I'm trying to answer the new ones and then answer as many old ones as I can in a sitting, and realized that there were quite a few questions at the end of my quilting tour, where the end of the video that I did of a tour of my quilting room. And there were quite a few questions that came up, and then there's some others scattered around. So I just thought I would go ahead and answer some of those right now, because I'm actually filming this early this week. As you are watching this, we're on our way back from Wisconsin, but I'm actually filming over the weekend because we are headed to Wisconsin to hear Daniel. He has his junior recital this week, and he's also singing in chapel services, and so we wanted to be up there to see that. We're taking my parents with me, and Maggie and Spencer are meeting us there from Minnesota, and so we've got an Airbnb, and so excited to spend a few days with them and to be able to support Daniel in his music, and just a few short weeks and he'll be home from college, finishing up his second year. Where does time go? But so I'm actually filming this early, so I thought I would just run through some questions here, and then we'll get on to some customer quilts today. And so let's just start. Right one. First one, it says, and I didn't write down who said these things, and I will go back onto your comment when I get to it. I'll go back into the comments. If I haven't answered your comment already, I will, and I'll probably put just a little bit of information that I say here today. Or I will just link this video so that you can go back and find your answer on here. So, but I did not write down who asked the questions, so I just have the question itself. First one says, I would love some information regarding finding and purchasing a used long arm. I don't know where to start. So I've purchased three. I have purchased 3 long arms in my long arm career. And the first 2, I want to say the first 2 I found on Longarm University. So I will link this website down below in the more information. What is it called? In the description. Oh my goodness. I will link this website down below. So longarmuniversity.com, they have a lot of things on their website. They do classes to teach you how to use long arms. And I think my mom was the one that first introduced me to this, because I think my mom had a long arm before I ever did. She's the one that got me into this, and I'm so happy. But I'm pretty sure she took some classes from Longarm University is how I even learned about it. But they have a section of their website where used machines can be listed for sale. Now, what I like about this is that for someone to put a listing on there, they have to pay to put their listing on there. So first of all, that makes me feel a little better that this is actually serious, okay? And so I've purchased my first 2 through Longarm University. Now, Longarm University just provides the platform for the information to be put there. You're still dealing directly through the individual, so it is an individual sale. But I just feel more confident in that than doing it on Marketplace. Now, my third machine, my newest one, I did purchase off of Marketplace, but this was a shop owner who was a handy quilter dealer, and she was selling her floor model that she had used. I believe Handy Quilter has a deal with shops that they, whatever their machine is that they use in shop, they can only keep it on the floor for a year, and then they need to sell it. They want the newest models in there, obviously. So I did purchase this through my last one through Facebook Marketplace, but it was through a dealer. It was a shop owner, and I dealt directly with her. And the nice part about that is that she actually brought it, set it up in my home for me. She, you know, serviced it, well, not serviced it, but got it all ready for me. And actually, while she was here, I had her clean and service my old one too. So, you know, just be careful. Like anything out there, you've got to know what you're dealing with. Make sure it's legit, and there's a lot of scams out there. And so I would just be very, very careful. But my first go-to would be Longarm University. Now I say all that, I did sell when I sold prior to buying this one, which had the Pro Stitcher on it. This is an Amara 20-inch. With Pro Stitcher on it. Prior to that, I had an HQ16, no digitized at all. And so I did sell that, and I did sell it on Marketplace. So you can find them. You know, I would just be careful, like anything you buy on Marketplace. I'm not one that's I don't do a lot of buying and selling on Marketplace, and so it's unfamiliar to me. If you deal with that all the time, then I think it may be even better for you. But Longarm University is where I would start looking. The nice thing about that as well is they tell where the person is. And so the two machines that I bought off of the Longarm University through individuals, I found something that was within driving distance of me. Found it within my price range, because you're going to get all different brands on there. Some with digitized, some not. I mean, so you're going to get a wide range of things. But so longarmuniversity.com, I will link that down below, and the link I will put will be actually straight to the listings. You don't have to pay to see the listings. You have to pay if you are wanting to list your machine for sale. So, you know, that would help those of you out there that need to sell one as well. And that leads me to another question. You are remarkable. Thank you. I am wanting a machine business. Which one do you truly recommend? I use handy quilters, okay? And to be totally honest, I did not research long arms. I had used my mom's. She had a Gamble. I had used hers. But I was a young mom. You know, I bought my first one in 2011. We still had a boatload of kids, you know, and so it was a big investment for our little family. You know, we've always lived on one income. I've always been at home with my kids, and so it was a big investment. So I had to find something that was, one, within my price range, and two, close enough that I could go get it and haul it back home. So I did find one on the Longarm University. We drove to, I want to say it was Peoria, Illinois is where we found the first one, and went over, left our kids with my mom after Thanksgiving dinner, and then we headed out the next day, drove to Peoria, packed it in our van, and brought it home. Thankfully, the lady was so nice. I mean, she left the machine up, let me run it, because I never even used, I mean, the only thing I had done was run my mom's. I really did not know a whole lot. And so she let me run it, kind of gave me some pointers and tips. We took pictures as we took the whole thing apart, and then we brought it home. So the only reason I went with a handy quilter was because it was in my price range and it was close enough that I could go get it. Okay, so those are not great reasons, I guess. I have loved my handy quilter. I have loved working with the company. Anytime I've had trouble, you know, which isn't very often, but they're super helpful. I still have a handy quilter, the shop that's closest to me is about an hour and 20 minutes away, that actually is a handy quilter dealer. When I need my machine serviced, I do call them, and they send out a guy that works with handy quilters on there. So I've not had any trouble with handy quilter at all. So when I sold my HQ16 and went to digitized, I went to handy quilter again because I was already familiar with how the thing worked. That's the reason I went. When I bought my second digitized long arm, I went with the same brand, same everything, again, because I didn't want this huge learning curve. So I would suggest, you go to a show, a quilt show that has the dealers out there, and just try different ones. Now, I really like handy quilter because I think it's pretty. I like the white. I just think it's much cuter than some of those are out there that look very industrial. That's just me. Appearances are important to me. So, so I like working with something that's pretty. But so I can't really recommend. I can only tell you what I use. I've enjoyed it. I've had no troubles with it. The company's great to work with. But I think the best thing is for you to go try out different ones. I would find somebody that is close to you that can service it if it needs to be, or help you with troubles, especially, you know, if you're buying one new, then you want somebody close by too. If you're buying a used one, I still think you need to be able to work with somebody close to you that can come clean it, you know, check timing, those things that need to be done occasionally. So hope that helps. All right, so let me look at next question. Absolutely a fantastic video, and I think that was my quilt tour. Thank you so much. One of my wish I had was a field of pumpkins. Would love to see a picture of your pumpkins if you have one. Bless you and your beautiful family for the year to come. So here are a couple pictures of pumpkins when we were growing it. If you know our history, we had a pumpkin patch for 18 years, I want to say. This was a family adventure. We moved to this farmhouse and had a couple acres. We have 27 acres total. About 20 of that is in woods. The rest of it is on the, you know, where the house sits, what we call our barn lot, which is more, it's out in front of the barn, but we play kickball there. We have volleyball there. You know, it's kind of the kids' playground right there. But then we have two separate fields that were both about 2 acres apiece. We were out here a couple years and had a farmer just do beans or hay, whatever they wanted to do on it. And then we decided we wanted to earn a little bit more money off of our fields. And so we began researching doing market gardening. And in my research, I found that pumpkins was a good cover crop the first year. So that's what we did. We took a field and we planted it full of pumpkins. And at the end of the summer, we ended up with 500 pumpkins, and we looked at each other and said, what are we going to do with 500 pumpkins? I don't know. We hadn't thought that far, I guess. So we have a housing addition that's about 3.5, 4, 5 miles away from us that has about 1,200 homes. So we advertised in their monthly newsletter. And people came and picked pumpkins, and we kept hearing over and over, are you going to do this again next year? You know, nobody else out here is doing this. And so it didn't stop. We didn't even do market gardening for probably about 15 years into that, where we did do some farmers markets. We grew other vegetables for a couple years and did farmers markets. And then we were kind of at the beginning of that becoming a big thing. And then the restrictions got a lot tighter. I didn't want to get certified organic. This is not something that I wanted to do long term, and it was getting much tougher. And I just decided to let somebody else do that part. So we stuck with the pumpkins for about 18 years. This was great for the kids. This was our own little small business. It kept the kids busy in the summertime. They were out there hoeing and planting and everything with us. And then in the fall time, we would put little tags on all of our pumpkins that had a Bible verse on it. Everybody went home with a tag on their pumpkin. That was also our pricing system. So that's where I began selling my quilts. My daughters would sell crocheted stuff. We did baked goods for a long time. We would grow pie pumpkins and cook those down, and we would make pumpkin pies, pumpkin muffins, but there you go. There's some pictures of our pumpkin field. And I love your calming videos and all the beautiful quilts of yours and your clients. I am a visual learner. Can you point me in the direction of video or written directions on how you make your 4 hourglass? They make my head hurt. Tutorial. So I just brought some samples again. You're going to start out with half square triangles. Now these, and you can, to make half square triangles, you can use triangle paper, triangles on a roll. You can take 2 squares the same size, you stitch down 1/4 inch on either side of the diagonal, and you get 2 of these. So these could be the same colors. You could have, like if I stacked a green and the white on top of each other, sewed down either side of that diagonal and cut it apart, I'm going to end up with 2 like this. If I do the same thing with blue, I would end up with 2 like this. Now I have brought these 2 to show you how you can then do an hourglass unit that has all 3 colors in it, the white, the blue, and the green. So you're going to start out with half square triangles, your favorite method to make half square triangles. Once you get these and you press them, then you're going to align these like this on top of each other, okay? The green is on one side, the blue is on the other, and you are going to layer those with that seam. Okay, the seams are matching. So just like when you, other blocks that you're doing, you are nesting those seams together, you want those two seams to nest up together. So there's the blue and there's the green. You're stacking those on top of each other, okay? Then I do pin because I don't want those to shift at all. So this is the same thing. These are stacked on top of each other, the blue and the green, like that. The whites are on opposite side of each other, okay? So I pin here, and then I'm stitching perpendicular to the diagonal line that's already stitched. You can see that green line right there. I'm stitching perpendicular to that. Again, you can draw the diagonal line if you want. I don't tend to do it unless I have really big blocks. You stitch 1/4 inch away from that on either side, and then you cut that. Hold on just a second, let me grab some scissors. Okay, so I've stitched on either side. I'm going to cut that right down the middle in between those two lines of stitches. All right, take my pin out. And when you press that open, you have the hourglass unit. And this one has all 3 colors in it. It has the blue, the green, and the white. So like I said, if you want an hourglass unit that's just green and white, you would just layer it with 2 half square triangles of the same fabrics, okay? So it's not difficult. And then I would trim this up to the size you need. You do have the little dog ears hanging over the side. All right, so you end up with 2. Okay, so end up with 2. There's your hourglass unit. So hope that helps. Hope that's a little more, I can't do a tutorial. I'm not very good at doing a tutorial with up in my sewing room with the camera on. Not what I'm doing yet. So, all right. So I hope that helps. Send me an email or a comment below if I need some more explanation on that. All right. Could you please show with a demo on what you mentioned as extra fabric all on top and back of little quilt for the long arm? I forgot to bring that with me. I'll do that in another video. Okay. Thank you for sharing your quilting and sewing rooms. It gives me so many ideas on how to organize mine. When you mentioned you have your ironing fabric over the plywood, what type of ironing fabric are you using? So I brought, this is a small ironing board. What she's referring to is my larger one that's on top of my sewing table, but I do have a smaller one, a travel one. This one I've used many for a long time. And I had covered all of it on both sides with batting, and you can see how it's picking up all the stuff. And I do that just to make it soft on the back as well, instead of seeing that plywood. So, but this one's been this one has older fabric. This is some Debbie Mum fabric that I used to have on here. That's how old it is. And I've recovered it again and again. So what I wanted to show you, so I put the batting on the plywood first, and then I cover it with the ironing fabric. And you can just see it barely, you can see that gray right there? That's just peeking out behind. And what the ironing fabric is, I don't know what the name of this is. I bought mine at Joann Fabrics years ago. I bought, you know, in probably a yard, whatever I was working with. But this is what it is. So it's able to stand the heat of your iron. I will look for this on some, when I just put in ironing fabric, it doesn't bring up anything. So I need to find more of what it actually is. So it's silvery on one side. It's lighter on the other side, and it's almost, it's a different type of feel on the back. So this side is heat resistant. And so I just cut it the size that I needed, and I put that over my board first, and then I use a staple gun and stapled that down. And then then on top of that, then I put some fabric. And you can see from the past, I just used cotton fabric. I do feel like the cotton fabric wears out a little faster. So I have started using Lori Holt, some of her decorator weight fabric. And it does hold up a little bit longer. It's a little thicker and just lasts a little bit longer. But I will say, The one I have, the bigger one I have upstairs now, the more you use it, it wears it out, and you can start seeing some discoloration and some fading and some, so my one upstairs is probably about time to redo it anyway. But that's how I do it. So this is, I'll try to, there's nothing on the selvage to even tell me what this is, but that's what I'm talking about. It's something that's heat resistant, that, that can stand up to your iron. And I use that underneath there. I mean, you could just use, you just use this as a cover, but to me that's not very pretty. I want something pretty, and so I put the Lori Holt fabric on there as well. So if I can find a link for that, I will link it down below for you. All right, next one. Thank you for your updated tour video. I watch your videos often for inspiration. Question, you mentioned batting scraps behind the bar. What's the purpose, and can you direct me to a bigger explanation? I have an older HQ and frame. Sounds like something that would help me out. So the purpose of tucking batting behind, and I can't show you right now, what I'll do is I will link a video down below that will take you to an unlisted YouTube video where you can watch, where I'll just talk about that. So if it's not something that you're interested in, you're not a long armor, you don't have to sit through it here. But if you are interested, I will link it down below, and it'll take you to a short video where I just show how I use the batting scraps. And all I'm doing is tucking it in. The reason is sometimes when you rotate your quilt, then especially if you're trying to get some precise lineups, you know, the fabric stretches, pulls here and there, you know, things just aren't always straight. So when I am realigning a pantograph, when I rotate the quilt and I'm realigning a pantograph, the middle may be fine. I may be, you know, where my computer thinks I am, where my needle says I am, are right on. As I move farther down the row, it can be a big difference. My quilt can be sagging on that side, and so if I just stitched, I would be stitching, I'd be fine in the middle, but I would be stitching over some other stitched things on the towards the ends. So if I tuck batting in behind those bars, it just pulls that whole quilt sandwich up a little bit and gets it aligned. So and usually I tuck a lot more in at the very end of the bar, so all the way down here, a little less. In the middle, it's fine. As I work down the bar, a little bit here, and then as I get farther and farther out, that's where you get a little bit more sagging, a little more drag in your fabric. And so then I'll just tuck some batting behind those bars, and it's behind the, pull this back. It would be behind this bar. So not my take-up bar, it's just that bar that's stabilizing the quilt, and I'm just tucking it behind there. Now if I have a quilt that, sorry about that, if I have a quilt that's really sagging and I find that each time I'm having to tuck more and more batting in there, sometimes I will leave the batting in as I'm rotating it so it gets caught up inside that. And sometimes just leaving that batting in there will keep it more aligned, and then I can just do little tucks in there. But I will film a video where I'm doing that, and so you can actually see that I'm what I mean by that. So I hope that helps a little bit. Oh, thinking about getting a long arm, can you tell me the dimensions of your room? It would give me a good visual on how mine would fit. So I have 12-foot tables, and my machine is all the way on the wall, that end. And at that end, I have 2 feet. So I think my room is 14 this way. And I don't know what, I think it's about square. I think it's about that way. So, so a 12-foot table, I have 2 feet at that end, and all I can do is walk around the end of that to get to the back of the machine, and I can get into that door. But like right now, I don't know if you could see it, there's like 3 rolls of batting sitting in front of that door, and I have to move the batting if I want to get behind the machine. So, so a 14-foot room, it works. At the other machine, same thing. This end, the machine is all the way against the wall. The other one, I have room to open the door to get out, and that's it. So my room is about 14 by 14. I have 2 machines in here, and it works. I wasn't sure it was going to, but it works great. What is the name of the quilt under the red and white quilt on the shelf in your long arm room? Okay, so I pulled this one out. So if you saw the quilt room video, and over there, yeah, you can see it. How do I do it? Over there is a red and white quilt, and on the shelf below it was this quilt. let me pull this back up here. And this quilt is the My Happy Place quilt. This is a Lori Holt quilt. I think this was a 2021 when she did this one. So this is one of her applique quilts, My Happy Place. So here's what the whole pattern looks like. This was a sew along that she does like every year when she does one of her applique blocks. So this one has some piece blocks, like the spools up there are pieced. When I talked about the applique process and I was showing you the template that looked like that, that was those yarn blocks right there. You can just see one of them there. So this one right here is actually cross-stitched on top of the fabric, and then you applique that in there. The sewing machine is pieced, but the little tomato is appliqued. Now you will notice there are buttons on here. Those were put on after I did the long arm quilting. And the pantograph on this one is wishbone, and I did make it fairly tight. I love the texture that's on here. So wishbone goes up and around and up and around. Love the texture. But yeah, that's My Happy Place. I have it folded it on the shelf. I just don't have a wall big enough in this room to put it up. So it's just fun to get it out every once in a while and look at it. So it does have some piece blocks as well. See the corners there. So this does use Lori's Sew Simple Shapes for the applique blocks, and then there's several piece blocks as well. You can see the tomatoes. Here is the button jar that I mentioned last week or the week before when I was talking about applique, and I showed you how to do the mason jar, and I said it came from that. This was the button jar, so all those buttons were put on after. Those are so fun. So when you do a buttons, you know, I did, let me see how well I did going through. I did not go all the way through the back. So, and you could go all the way through the back, but the only way I could do it without going all the way through the back, because I didn't want those little tiny stitches to show, but I did not want to do some custom quilting on this one. So I just wanted to do an all over pattern. So when I'm doing buttons like this, but I don't want the stitches to go all the way to the back, I do, so what I do is I start on the front, make a knot very close to the end of the thread. And I start on the front and I just, you know, pull it through the front, you know, just a little dip into the fabric and pull it out. I put the button on, I go down through the button, and then I pull it tight and I make a knot and I hide it behind the button. So you can't do 2 or 3 stitches around into these buttonholes, because then I would have to go through the back, and I didn't want to go through the back. So they only have 1 stitch on there. Now I do double my thread, so it's 2 plies of thread there, but I start on the front, go up through the buttonhole, down through, when the button's up here, up through the buttonhole, down through the other side, and then I pull it tight so that button goes all the way to the fabric, and then I tie it off as close to that button as I can and hide that thread underneath. So just because I like it better without my things showing through on the back. And yeah, even these small ones, that's the way I did them too. So they might come off pretty easy if it was messed with, but like I said, this one sits up on the shelf. So My Happy Place, that's a Lori Holt. You can still get her sew along guide. You will need the Sew Simple Shapes that go along with it, and I think those are still available too. I believe this used, is it calico? I keep all my, this is a binder that I keep sew along guides in. I believe it used stitch. Yeah, it was her stitch line, not calico line. So there you go. There's that quilt. All right, let's see what else I have. It says, wow, I must have missed the video where you got your second long arm. So I'm curious, are you able to quilt 2 at a time, and do you need to be present as the machines are quilting? And how long before a customer gets their quilt back once you receive it? So yes, I did purchase a second long arm. It's February of 2024. And that's when I switched rooms and I brought this machine down. We moved our bedroom upstairs. So if you go back about 14 months ago and look at some videos there, you'll see where I talk about getting the second long arm and switching rooms there. Are you able to run both at the same time? Yes. So I start one and I go to the next one. It is a full-time job to go between the two. When I was only running one, you could start it and you could sit down and work on something else. I could quilt, or I could piece things. I could do that. When you're running two, rarely do I get to sit down and do anything else, because when one finishes, the next one will finish. And unless it's something, I get them both loaded and they're both running really long passes. Otherwise, it's between the two the whole time. And which is okay. I mean, it's concentrating the work and getting two done at a time. I do like to stay close. When I was only running one machine, I probably tended to leave the room a little bit more. Now that I'm running two, I do stay close because there's always something to do, and I just like to hear if something doesn't sound right, because then it saves a lot of time later. I hate to get to an end of a pass and come back in, thinking, oh, it'll be done now, and come back and it had broke thread, way over here, and I've lost that time. If I was in the room and I knew it broke the thread, one machine I do have set to beep if it breaks the thread. The other one I don't, because it was beeping all the time and the thread wasn't broke. So it was driving me nuts. So I just turned that off. But I also like to just, it's like knowing your kids, when your kids are calling your name, I can hear when something doesn't sound right, and I can stop it then instead of getting all the way to the end and realizing the tension wasn't right or something. I would rather be in the room and do it close. So how long before a customer gets their quilt back once you receive it? Right now, unfortunately, I am at about a 3-month turnaround. And I would love to do more, but I really had to start limiting the number of quilts I was doing in a week, because it was wearing me out and I was spending too much time in here and not enough time with my family. And still there are weeks that I do that. So I do limit the number of quilts that I schedule for each week, even running 2 machines, because I'm also filming videos, I'm editing videos, I'm managing my Quilt Circle membership. So right now I'm about 3 months out, 12 weeks. I do schedule times. I usually about every couple of months I'll schedule a week off, and I either use that as a catch-up week, or I use it that's when we're going on vacation or something. So like coming up here in June, I've actually scheduled myself off for 2 weeks, not because we're going on vacation, not because we're doing anything fun, but because Daniel's going to have jaw surgery in early part of June. He has been waiting for 4 years for all of his teeth to get aligned, and he has a tremendous underbite. And so, is that right? Yeah, the underbite. His upper jaw is needs to be pulled forward. So he finishes up school in May. Then we have our final consultations with the surgeon. They take all these measurements, they have everything fitted, and so we'll go into surgery in June, and they will actually break his jaw, pull it forward. They're going to put titanium plates in to keep it all forward. We're hoping this will help also with his nasal congestion. He's just got he's chronically congested in his nasal passages. So hoping that clears up a lot of that. And then they've got to realign the bottom jaw because it's off center as well. So I've marked myself out for 2 weeks in June, just because I need to be able to concentrate on him. So 12 weeks, and I'm sorry it's that long. I went to the post office today and picked up 4 boxes, and most of those boxes have multiple quilts in them. So I love what I'm doing. I love to be able to help you with your quilt tops. I wish I had more hours in the day. I just don't. So about 3 months, but so as you're finished them, send them in, and we'll get them done. I've only wound all my own bobbins so far, but I saw all those bobbins on your Longarm cart and it was triggered me. I remember you talking about pre-wound bobbins in a previous video, and I've looked back, but I can't find the information. So I was wondering what kind of pre-wound bobbins you use, and if they are MagnaGlide, do you remove the spring from your bobbin case? So yes, I use MagnaGlide. Let me grab this real quick. And I did talk about this recently, I think, but I'll explain it here again because I know it's hard to go back and find a video when you're looking for it. So I do use MagnaGlide. MagnaGlide bobbins have a magnetic core, You can see the little black, that's a magnetic core. And I love these bobbins. I carry 3 colors, basically. My 3 that I buy by the box are the white, the cream, and the light gray color. I do have a small number of darker gray. I have bought a smaller number of the celery color just because I like that color, but those aren't sold by the box. Actually, the darker gray probably is, but I don't use it enough. So the 3 that I buy by the box, which are like 100 bobbins in them, are the cream, the white, and the light gray. So the question was, do you leave the spring in? So yes and no. One machine I have the spring in, the other machine I do not. Now, you will get differing advice from different dealers. So even with Handy Quilter, okay, so I don't know about the other dealers, but I'm talking about Handy Quilter. Handy Quilter will tell you never to take your spring out, okay? I feel like with the magnetic core, you don't need the spring. So like when I had the newest machine I have, she was a Handy Quilter dealer when she brought the machine and set it up, and she was servicing my older one, and I was using Magnet Glides, and I had the spring in, and she's like, "You leave your spring in?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Oh, I never leave the spring in." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I started running it without the spring in. A couple months ago, I was having some tension issues and some things, and I mean, like, I'm trying to troubleshoot everything, and talking to a different Handy Quilter dealer, and I mentioned that I run it with the spring out. "Oh, well, that may be your problem. You need to have the spring in." So the machine that I was having some tension issues with, I did put the spring back in, and that wasn't the whole problem, but when they did the timing of it, and they cleaned it and did some things, the spring was in, so I didn't want to change things up by taking the spring out again. So one machine I have with the spring in, and one not. Now, the advantage of leaving the spring in is when you do wind your own bobbins, and you're putting, because when you wind your own bobbins, you do need the spring in there. And you know, if you run it with Magnet Glides with the spring in, then you don't have to worry about it. But if you have your spring out and you're winding your own bobbins, you got to put your own back in there. You need to make sure it's set right. You know which direction, because it needs to go where it's kind of up a little bit and not flat to the bottom. You got to keep track of it when it's not in your case. So yes and no. I would see what works best for your machine and run with that. I kind of like it without it, and I may pull it out of the one and try that again. Now, I did have the question about the Towa gauge again. So I put the bobbin in the bobbin case, and the Towa gauge just helps you check tension. And so you snap it in there. It's hard to do when you're not looking at it. So you snap it in, you run it underneath this disc, over the top of this disc, then you bring it down by that lever. So under this disc, under the bottom one, over the top one, around the lever at the bottom, and then you pull with a consistent pull, straight out, not down, not up. I just broke the thread. All right, with a straight there, okay? What I am shooting for is about 200, just a little less is where I like it at. Now, Superior Threads does have a guide on their website that tells you if you're using, I think if you're using this thread is the way it is, or this needle, which that would also, they have a guide on there that tells you what tension you should be at on your Towa gauge. And I'll link that down below. So if you're using, I use Omni thread, I use size 18 needle, and so I know on there that it tells me you need to be between 180 and 200. Now this is just one test. I also hold it in my hand and to see if it'll go. You see how that's dropping. So between the two, I know my tension is pretty good, and then I'll put it in my machine. Then if I'm still having tension issues, that's when I'll adjust the top. So you adjust your bobbin first to those two things. You know, is it dropping like that? Is it about the right number on the Towa gauge? And then I put it in the machine, and then test then I'll change the top one if I have any trouble with that. So Magna-Glide bobbins, I order mine through Hab and Dash, Hab plus Dash, I don't know, but you may have to have a business account to do that, I'm not sure. But that's how I order mine, by the case. Okay, talked about that. Would love to see your collection of your quilts someday. I did several videos probably about a year ago where each time I would come and I would show you some of my quilts that I'd done. Maybe sometime I'll do a whole video about that, but you might want to go back and look for some of those. Just do a movie marathon, you know, and just watch it that way. Someone asked about the drawers that are underneath my tables. Now, both machines that I bought, again, I bought used, and the drawers were already there. It wasn't something that I put on later. They both came with it. But I know Handy Quilter sells the drawers, and they're compatible with most, is what it says, with most HQ Studio, HQ Studio 2, HQ Studio 3, the HQ Gallery, and the HQ Gallery 2 frames. So I believe I have two different frames, and I don't remember what they are, but they both have the drawer on it, so you can check that out. Then the final question I have is, do you use the ladder stitch when binding by hand? I don't know. I don't know what the ladder stitch is, and I didn't take the time. I looked it up. It's like, oh, there are several videos about what the ladder stitch is. I don't know what the ladder stitch is. I'm a self-taught quilter, self-taught binder. I just know that when I do my stitches, I like them to hide underneath that binding. I do not want to see even the slightest little tick mark on the side. So I will link a video down below that just shows you how I hand stitch to the back. This video was done probably a year and a half ago. It was when I had my studio upstairs. It wasn't the best video quality, but it kind of shows you how I stitch by hand and how I do that. It's just something that I came up with. It may be the ladder stitch, I really don't know. But I just like all my stitches to be hidden behind there. So that was a very long question and answer, and I hope that's not too long for you to sit through, because now I have some customer quilts as well. So take a break, take a pause, run and grab something to drink and come back, because next up is customer quilts. I have three quilts that are Lisa's today. This first one is called Swoon 16, and this is a Camille Roskelley pattern. And then Lisa used the fabric line Feed Sacks Good Works, which is by Lindsay Cole McCrae. Let me show you a cover of the pattern. So Camille Roskelley of Thimble Blossoms, she has created this pattern. The pattern measures 75 by 75. You have a 16-inch block. It does use fat quarters with some additional sashing, background fabric, binding, and backing. So really love this design. So the same block, but you're interchanging your fabrics so that you get a different look with each block. And with this fabric line, I love this sashing fabric. This reminds me of the little eyelets that you would have in your dresses as a kid. At least me it does. The aquas, the blues, the grays, the background is a solid white. Nice large blocks. 16-inch block. I said that, didn't I? Yes, I did. Love the colors of this. I love the deep blue, but then you have the minty green. There's also a green that's just a little darker there. You can see like this. The florals, kind of a throwback line, and I like it. It's very, very pretty. Then with the sashing, and even the sashing, the border around the sashing, the border around the quilt is the same size as the sashing. So a nice square quilt, just very springy, very beautiful. The backing fabric, I believe, is part of that same line. It sure looks very similar, but I will look that up to be sure. The pantograph on this one is called Petal Tiles, and I hope you can see that in there. I love the texture. I love the density of this pantograph. So you're having a diamond shape. Inside of that, you have a 4-petaled flower with little circles inside of that also. This really stitches out pretty easy. It looks very complicated, but it really stitches out pretty easy. And I couldn't follow the path if I tried. It's one of those you'll just have to look online to see it. But it's very nice. Not a lot of overstitching, so not what I mean by that is it's not retracing its steps a lot. You do have a little bit of a connection between one diamond and the other, but it's very minimal. It's just one little line. But you got to be able to travel when you're doing a continuous line pantograph. But I love the way this is set on point. There are no fussy points that have to match. How you create this diagonal feel is the edge of this line, you know, so this, you're creating two at a time, so almost in a zigzag type shape here. So it's creating this one, it's traveling a little bit right here, creating this one, then it travels down here maybe, and comes up here and does this one. I don't know how it's done. There's a travel line there. I don't see one here, so I'm not sure. I can't quite remember how it connects. But what I wanted to point out is that this point does not have to match a point above it in the row above it. So it's just nesting up the lines so that you get a nice, almost like a pathway or an alley. I don't know, what would you say? Just you're getting that nice little definition around each one of the diamonds. And I always nest my pantograph up so that the space between the rows is the same as the spacing within the row. So where the designer has these two tiles meet, there's probably a ½ inch space in between there. So when I nest my row up with the one above it, I want to make sure that that is also a ½ inch, because if I leave an inch here, then you're going to see a definite split between the rows. You're going to see a very large area here, and then it's going to be tighter where the pantograph is, and then another big space there. So in order to get a nice cohesive design and overall feel, you want to nest your pantograph up so that it's very similar between the rows as it is within one pass or within one row. I did use the Omni white on this one. The background fabrics are white on here. The quilt is very bright. And so a lighter color, the white color, really looks nice on this quilt. So very nice job, Lisa, and I can't wait for you to see her second one. And Lisa's second quilt is the Autumn Quilt Seeds. These are patterns by Lori Holt, and I absolutely love it. You knew I was going to say that, though. I love this quilt. It is just so beautiful. So Quilt Seeds, with each line that Lori has done in the last several years, she's also put together these packets, these seed packets, and Lisa was so kind to gift me the seed packets when she finished these. I just love them, love them, love them, love them. So thank you, Lisa. You are so, so kind. So the quilt seeds are individual blocks, but then when you put them together, all 9 of them, you can make a very large quilt. So Lori did these for quilt stores. So what they can do is they can actually put the fabrics for this one block inside the little packet. So you can see it opens up. You've got your pattern in here, but then the quilt stores could package this with the fabrics inside that are needed for that block. It's got the nice little tie. Oh, I just love it. I mean, the packaging is just as cute as the pattern and the fabrics and all of that as well. So just love this, love this. So when you go, like I have linked the Fat Quarter Shop down below, you can buy this whole set as the whole set of 9 patterns together. You can buy each one of them if you'd like to. These blocks measure, I want to say 16 by 20. Let me look at that again. Each block measures, I just looked at this just a few minutes ago, 18 by 20. So a finished block measures 18 by 20, which makes this a great project if you only want to make one and make it for a wall hanging, a decoration for the outside, for your porch in the fall time, or for a wall, you know, a hallway or something. This would be really cute just laid in the center of your bed with your pillows and things in the fall time. If you didn't want to do the whole quilt, you can just do one. So these are available as individuals. You can buy them with just the pattern, so then you add your own fabrics. And if you've ever done one of the kits from Fat Quarter Shop, you know you have plenty of fabric left over. You'd be able to make something like this. Or you can buy it with the fabrics included, and all of that is on the Fat Quarter Shop. Then also, Riley Blake put together a free PDF that has the finishing instructions. So if you want to do all 9, you want to put it together in a quilt like this, then they give you the measurements for all the sashing. Do you see the sashing? I just love it. The strips of sashing, your 9 patches that create your cornerstones, the different colors, and then the border. All of that is included in the finishing instructions, and this is a free PDF. So you could use the same setting instructions, finishing instructions for other blocks. If you've got other blocks that are 18 by 20, then grab this finishing set. This is a free PDF, and you'll be able to get a setting that you can use on other quilts as well. So you'll want to get a hold of that. The final quilt on this one measures 78 by 84. Now, Lisa did use she used her stash. So she used some Lori Holt prints, but then she added in others from other designers. She did this gray, this is called Gray Bedrock, I want to say. Gray Bedrock by Windham is what she used for the gray print behind each one of the pumpkins. I love that they're white pumpkins. When we had a pumpkin patch, we'd grow white pumpkins. Do you know what color a white pumpkin is on the inside? It's orange. And we would do fun things when we had a pumpkin patch. Like we would take an apple core, and maybe I've said this before and I apologize. We would take an apple core and we would have 2 pumpkins, an orange one and a white one, and we would do use that apple core and go through the sides of a whole pumpkin, the orange one and then the white one, and then we would swap the cores. So we would have an orange pumpkin with white polka dots all over it, and we'd have a white pumpkin with orange polka dots all over it from the skins of it. So fun. Just love white pumpkins. We grew, there's several varieties actually. The variety that we grew was called Lumina, and white pumpkin. Just love it. We live in the best day and age, don't you think? The backing fabric, let me pull this in so you can see. This is one of Lori Holt's wide backings. This is from her Calico line, and this is in the color Alpine. So this is the green one. You can find this in several different colors. I love this. This has spring, summer, autumn, winter. You can see on the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday calendar. I mean, it's just beautiful. All of Lori's wide backs are just beautiful. So for the pantograph on this one, we used Wishbone. Wishbone adds a great amount of texture. We did not need to do pumpkin theme on top of this. The theme is carried in the fabrics, it's carried in the design of the pattern. You really just want to add something that adds texture and just finishes off the quilt and gives it a nice look. So Wishbone comes up, does a loop, down a loop, up a loop, down a loop, and that's what it does across the entire quilt. I did make this, probably 8 inches tall, probably about. But the neat thing with this pantograph is the rows nest so tightly in together. So the negative space where this loop comes up and then down, that negative space, I bring that row below it all the way up into that negative space. So it fills in that amount and it gives it great texture. Love this pantograph. This can be used on so many things. It's not necessarily a fall pantograph. A kid's quilts or men's quilts or something that you're just needing texture on. This works really well. I did use a white color thread on this one. You've got white pumpkins, and I really didn't want to take away from those white pumpkins. Really wanted to keep the whole feel of the quilt bright and fun and cheery, and so using that white thread on that really worked well. So I love this quilt. I cannot wait to work on this. Now the fabrics, if you buy these as the kit, each one of the fabrics, they use Lori's Autumn line. A beautiful, beautiful line. And that is what I have, the autumn line in my stash. And so when I get around to this quilt, that's what I will be using. But each one of these, each pumpkin is different. So the pumpkin shapes are all the same as well. Yeah, all the pumpkin shapes are the same, but you're getting a different block in the middle. So pretty. Just love them, love them, love them. But again, like I said, if you just want, if there's one block that stands out to you, you can buy either just the pattern or you can buy the kit. By the size, you know, you could put it in the middle of your bed each day and it could look like you have a very nice autumn quilt when it's really just one block. So pretty. And the packaging, I just think the packaging is just as cute as the quilt itself. You could have these out as decorations, I think, at fall time. So beautiful, Lisa. Thank you so much for the gift. I so appreciate it. And I just love your quilt. Lisa's third quilt today is called Simply Solstice, and this is a pattern by Robin Pickens. Beautiful quilt. I love the colorway that Robin chose. I love the bright colors, but I also like it the way Lisa did. So Lisa chose the fabric line Ebb and Flow. This is done by Windham Fabrics. So you have the blues, the turquoise, the darker blacks, darker blues, different colors of blue. So you have some lighter ones, some darker ones, some greens in here. Very pretty. But you can see the pattern, the same block, very big blocks. You can see right here. And then let me look on the back here. This, you can make it in two sizes. It comes in a 35 and a 40 by 35 by 45 and also a 70 by 90. If you make the smaller one, you can use a charm pack. If you make the larger one, like Lisa did, you can use layer cakes. And don't see the size of the finished block, but very large. So this one measures 60 or 70 by 90, as I said, and beautiful fabrics. Now the background fabric, this is a low volume, so you have to get in pretty close to see it. It reads as a solid as you're looking at it. The background fabric, love this line as well. The backing fabric, this is called Pixels, and this is by P&B Textiles. Matches the colors very nicely from the front. So you can see the nice big blocks. You have a square here in the middle with easy corner triangles. You have a larger square around that. Again, those are half square triangles. And then the next square around that with flying geese unit in the middle. And that is creating your block right all the way down to there. And then those points of the two flying geese units from one block to the other meet in the middle, and you almost create a secondary pattern with those right there. So beautiful fabric line. But you can use this in so many different fabric lines. And then because you saw Robin Pickens' colors, how they're the bright, the oranges and the reds and those and the yellows. And then Lisa's done hers in a little darker colors, the blues, but very rich, very nice feel to it. The pantograph on this one is called Floral Felicity. I loved the way that this filled in the negative space. So some of the fabrics on this one, you have some leaf prints here, you have some little bit of florals on this one, and so I went with a pantograph that had some swirls in it. Some of the fabrics have some swirls, some circles, some swirls in it, a little bit of paisley or feather type, and then it has just a couple flowers in there. So not a very over floral print. I didn't feel this was an overly floral quilt, but just enough of a floral that we're adding in just a little bit of a dimension that kind of matches a little bit of the fabrics in there. Just a nice soft 5-petaled flower, has just a couple leaves that kind of match this fabric here, and then just nice big swirls. Did not make this super dense, but it does do a very nice coverage over the quilt top, and you've got lots of negative space in here that you can really show off a pantograph design. So I did use the Omni White thread We got a white background fabric that really blends in well. You've got some darker colors here, but there's lots of other colors inside of those fabrics, so I don't think it detracts from that at all. And then on the backing, that's got lots of white undertones on that, so the white thread on that really blends in nicely. So love that pantograph as well. Very, very pretty pantograph. So all right, those are Lisa's 3 quilts. She did such a great job. And I have 3 lovely quilts to share with you that Judy brought to me. Judy is local to me, and she is in my local quilt club, my local quilt guild. And this pattern right here, I believe, is called Circle City Sampler. Judy's going to give me the information for sure when I meet with her to give these back. So I'm just going off what I think they are right now. But our local guild did this as a quilt along last year in 2024. And Circle City Sampler is a pattern done by Material Girl Quilts, and she's also local to me. And she created this pattern for a shop hop that was going on in Indiana several years ago. And then our quilt guild picked it up last year and did it as a quilt along. So I believe that's what it is. The blocks look very similar. Judy's layout is a little different than what's on the pattern, which I love. I love that she's done it on her own. She's even added some blocks on the back, and I'll show you that in just a minute as part of her backing fabric. And I like that idea too, whether she's made the quilt a little smaller and used some of the extras on the back, or whether she made extra blocks to use on the back. But I'll show you those in just a minute. So all reds and greens, a little bit of gray, and floral prints. You can see in the lighter fabrics, they've got that same red flower, and then she's accented that with red fabrics as well. I don't know the fabric lines. I will link those down below once Judy gives me that information. So all different kinds of blocks. So a little bit of everything. They're all pieced, nothing appliqued, but I love a sampler like this. Again, this is a little more of a modern take on a sampler because it's not set in a grid pattern per se. You've got smaller blocks mixed in with very large blocks. You can kind of see that at the top. Medium-sized blocks, and then all of those fit together to create more of a modern type of sampler. So very, very nice. And love all the fabrics that she has done. So many different blocks. I couldn't go through them all. You have some star blocks and some snowball type blocks, some more stars, just a little bit of everything on this quilt. So let me bring in the backing to show you. Now I have this oriented long ways. It could be that it's vertical. Actually, I think it's vertical, so I think I've got this quilt. Hold on just a second. Let me just flip it around. All right, I got it flipped around for you. Got it going the right direction. The reason I know it's the right direction is because there's wording fabric on the back, and all of the words are now upright like they should be. So again, I will link this line once I get the information from Judy, but this one is really fun. It says, tell the truth, take care of each other, give thanks for all your blessings, listen and always do your best, love, 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 and above all else, love. Just lots of neat words, all in a script. So the background color is more of a coral color, and then the white wording on top of that. And then you can see how Judy has done all these extra blocks and done them in a vertical piece down the middle, and then more wording on the other side. So you're only seeing half of this backing fabric. So then all of these blocks, most of the smaller ones, probably 6-inch blocks here on the back, and she's put them all together in a pleasing fashion, and then it comes down vertically across, down from the quilt. For the pantograph, we used Moulin Rouge, and I hope you can see that on here. Moulin Rouge, I didn't do this super tight. You've got a lot of intricate piecing on the front, and so I wanted to do something that was going to be a little more flowy, a little softer. And so making this pantograph a little larger gives you that more flowy, soft feel. So Moulin Rouge, you've got a big swirl here. As it comes out, it does a circle, and then it does feather motif on the back side of that swirl. little circle there. As it comes back around and echoes that, then it does another feather paisley type design. It echoes that a couple times, a smaller swirl, a small paisley, and then it goes right back in to that same design. This swirl is tipped to the left, this swirl is tipped to the right, and then that's how you are moving across the quilt in that fashion. I did use the cream color thread on this one. This is the Omni Cream. The colors are a little more muted. The lighter fabrics on here are more of a creamy white, and so the cream color was just perfect for that. I love how this pantograph nest in with each other, so the row below comes very nicely up into the middle of the negative space of the row above it and below it, and then just that nice swirl just adds a really nice softness to the very straight edges of all of this quilt top. So very, very nice. Judy's final quilt measures 73 by 73. I've not looked at the size of the Circle City sampler pattern to see. It may have been more of a rectangle shape, so she might have used some extra blocks, done her own setting, and I just love that. I love that she's made it her own. So that is Judy's first quilt, and let's move on to her second one. Judy's next two quilts are using the Farmhouse Flannel line from Primitive Gatherings. This has got to be one of the softest flannels I've ever felt. I have loved working with this flannel. And I'm just quilting it, so I'm sure piecing it is even better because it just feels so soft. Just very lovely feel to it. So all done by Primitive Gatherings, and I'll link their line down below. So this middle part, this first one you're seeing is a sheep, but this is all one big panel. So it looks like smaller squares, it looks like the sheep are appliqued onto there, but this is one large panel, and then Judy has added borders around the edges. So perfect, a super cute quilt, but comes together very, very quickly. Then on the backing fabric, this is also another one of the Farmhouse Flannels. This is it's more of a brown. Houndstooth is what it looks like, more of a brown print, but you see those same colors on the front. We have lots of grays and blues, and then the browns mixed in there as well. And then her borders are in the gray, and she's done the same borders on the left and the right, and then the same borders on the top and the bottom, the fabrics that are used there. So you can see that on the top and the bottom, and then that print on the two sides. And then just that big panel in the middle. I just think this is the cutest. The sheep are just the cutest. So for the pantograph on this one, I sent Judy a couple of ideas. I really wanted to do something swirly because I felt like you got lots of boxes, but then just to kind of go along with the sheep theme here. But I've mentioned before, I'm not a big one to put a sheep motif on top of sheep fabric. I think that's just overkill with your theme there. But at the same time, doing something that would kind of go along with it without putting a sheep in the quilting. So this one is called Bubbles, and while it does look like bubbles, it's got a circular here, it got a circle shape, and then it comes in and just does a little spiral inside that circle, comes back out, does a little spiral here, but the spirals are they're not uniform in meaning the spiral as it spins out. It's skinny at the beginning, but it gets really a nice circle shape to it, so it feels like a bubble. And to me, this just looked like the woolly locks on a sheep all over. You know, this would work great on a pig quilt too, because I think it looks like the little pigtail on the back of a pig. But for the sheep, I think it just mimics those little, you know, it just looks like little balls of wool all over, like you would feel on a sheep, I guess. I've not been too close to sheep much in my life. But so the size of this one, the bubbles are different sizes. So this one's probably 2 inches, no, probably 2.5 to 3, 2 inches, and that is built into the pantograph, that the bubbles are different sizes, and it does nest in well. So this is the bottom of one pantograph, and then this is the top of the other one. So when you so this one almost stitches out like this, and then the next row above it really comes up high into that pantograph, into the line above it, so that it really nests in well and really gives you a nice dense effect. Now, some of my bubble pantographs before, you've heard me say I'll overlap them so it looks like all of the bubbles are overlapping each other. This one, in the pantograph itself, nothing overlaps. The circles are next to each other. The bubbles are like they're attached to each other. You know, they're sitting on top of each other. And so I didn't want to overlap anything from one row to the next because that wasn't in keeping with the design of the pantograph itself. Some bubble prints it is. Some bubble prints, they show all, you know, like apricot moon bubbles. They're all overlapping. And so I feel like with that pantograph, it's good to overlap the rows of that one so that you get that same cohesive feel all over the quilt. This one, nothing in the pantograph overlaps, so I did not want to overlap the rows either. But I did bring them up so that they're nice, fit nicely up into that, and this one was designed very well for that the one row fits very nicely up into that, so you're getting a whole cohesive design across there. The thread color I used is the light gray. It looks really great on the edges. You're just seeing it blend in. On the back, I used the light gray, but with this houndstooth print on the back, it's very hard to see any color on the back. It is such a mesmerizing fabric that the thread color, while it's gray, it just, it's hard to even see the quilting on the back. Just, I think maybe you can a little bit there. But the thread color blends in nicely. So the whole tone of the quilt is a grayish, bluish quilt. So using the light gray works really, really nicely. And even with flannel, you've got a little bit thicker nap there as compared to a cotton, not as thick as a minky, but a little bit thicker there. So your stitches do kind of sink in or soak into the flannel. And especially using flannel on both sides, you really have a little bit bigger of a sandwich there, and so your stitching does just soak in a little bit, although not like minky where you lose the stitching altogether and you're just seeing the pantograph. You're not seeing the actual stitch lines. In flannel you can see the actual stitch lines, but they do soak into that flannel a little bit. So very, very cute, a great quick quilt, and very farmhousey feel, and so I just really like that one. The final measurements on this one were 51 by 69, so a nice lap size quilt. It'll be really cute hanging over the back of a chair. Let me move on to the third quilt. It also uses the Farmhouse Flannels. And Judy's third quilt just coordinates so well with the sheep quilt. I just really love it. Again, these are the Farmhouse Flannels. You're seeing some of the houndstooth in a smaller. This was like what was on the back of the sheep quilt. You've got that same print, but in a lighter. Same print in a gray, in the light gray. So, and there's even some houndstooth in more of a black, in a white color, and in the gray color. So a very coordinated line. I really like this. And then you've got some plaid prints. You can see some plaid prints in different places. The sashing in this is a solid gray. A nice calming effect to give your eye a place to rest in between all of those busier prints that are in the blocks. I don't have the pattern for this. Once Judy gets that to me, I will link it down below so that you can see the pattern. But you can see how it's done in blocks. I think you can see that. So done in squares, it has a smaller square here with a rectangle, a larger square here with a rectangle down the side. And then those are, it's the same block all over, but then it's rotated around different directions. So you're not getting, here you have the small square in the upper left, but here it's in the lower left, here it's in the lower left, upper right, bottom right. So it's all mixed around. And then set with this sashing, pretty wide sashing in the horizontal rows. The vertical rows are a little skinnier. And then Judy did borders, and we've got, let's see, yeah, it's all the same print. This, I would say this is a medium gray, a little bit of a bluish print on top of that. Nice wide border, very Very, very pretty. This feels masculine, but it feels very farmhouse to me as well. And you pair this one with a sheep quilt layered on a couch next to each other, and I just think they would be absolutely lovely. So the backing fabric, she did a pieced backing with a skinny row in the middle. So actually these two prints are the same. Yeah, the top and the bottom are the same, and then the sashing across the middle is a lighter gray color. I like that. If you don't have enough backing, you know, like this, if you don't have enough backing for your entire quilt, I really like inserting something in the middle rather than putting something at either end. This is actually a lot easier when putting it on the long arm to have your piece in the middle. It doesn't have to be exactly in the middle. Even if it's offset some, it still gives a nice effect. But that's a little easier than having it at either ends and your quilt not maybe fitting perfectly within those extra pieces on the end. So I really like increasing your backing fabric, the size of it, by putting something through the middle, or you know, divide it into thirds and do a third at the top, then a piece, and then 2/3 at the bottom. Something like that would be very nice. The pantograph on this one is called Square Dance. I really like this. To me, putting a square dance pattern like this on it keeps this masculine feel to this quilt. You could do something floral, something, not floral, I would say more swirly. It would soften the look of the quilt. Because you can tell with this one, the square dance, you're coming up, you're doing a diamond shape here, very similar to wishbone or something, where wishbone is just circle or like loopy types. This is very square, so it comes up and does your diamond, comes straight down, does your diamond down here. I do shrink these rows so that this one shrinks all the way down into that one, so this diamond is fitting in the negative space of this one down below. You could make this pantograph much tighter. Again, being a flannel quilt, some busier prints on the front, I didn't feel like we needed to go any tighter, and I know I just felt like Judy's style is a little looser than tighter, so I went with a little looser, but it still gives great coverage. So you can see in between the box, the diamond here is probably a 1.5 inch, and that's about the same spacing that I gave in between the rows as shrinking them down. It was about 1.5 inch. So it's just a nice uniform feel all the way around there. We're keeping very symmetrical with our sizing here. Again, called Square Dance, and I did use the light gray thread on this one. You have some lighter colors, not too many, but you do have some lighter colors. The sashing is a lighter gray, so even though we have some darker prints here, the light gray, because this is flannel, that thread kind of soaks in a little bit. So even a light gray is not too bright on these darker prints because it just soaks in just a tad bit. You can see it a little bit more on these lighter prints, but I think that gives it a good definition, gives that solid fabric a little more character, I guess I want to say. You've got so many busy prints, it kind of makes that one fit in as well, and just so soft. It is just, the flannels are just so nice. And the final measurements of this one are 61 by 90. So a nice sized quilt, larger than the sheep quilt, so I think they would fit very nicely together, layered on the back of a couch or draped somewhere together. Very, very pretty. And I just really like the way that one turns out. I love these Farmhouse Flannels. You're going to have to go to your local quilt store and feel them, or order some for yourself, because I think you're really going to enjoy working with those. So those are Judy's 3 quilts, and they're just absolutely gorgeous. So thank you for joining me today. I hope you have enjoyed this long video. If you've got other questions that come up, send me email or put them in the comments, and I'll try to answer questions every once in a while when I get a good handful of them. And thank you for all of you who send your quilts to me. I absolutely love working on your quilts and seeing what you're working on. Today's quilts were absolutely beautiful. So much fun, such a variety, and I wish I could make every one of them. So I will be back here next week, because every quilt is worth finishing, whether it's your first one, your latest one, or a 100-year-old one that you just found in the cedar chest. So every quilt is worth finishing, so I will be back here next week to show you some more. See you then.